Thank you everyone for being here at Devcon. I'm really excited. I feel really lucky whenever I get invited to Devcon because as the business guy at a tech company, I'm in this awkward middle spot because I'm actually not nerdy enough to be cool, but I'm a tech CEO, so I'm actually too nerdy to be cool, right? So I don't know exactly where I fit, and so when I get invited to this party, I'm always a little bit happy. So thank you for having me. They put me after the sponsor, so that kind of tells you, like, you know, where I am in the pecking order of things here at Devcon. But anyway, thank you, Alexis, for a great talk. I also feel very lucky because despite being nerdy, I am fortunate and lucky enough to be married to a wonderful woman. And today happens to be our anniversary. We've been married for 4 years. I'm not sure what she saw in me, but she's stuck with me now. And I think being married to a guy who works at Liferay has rubbed off on her, because in the same way that we've been saying, like, 1 year is too long to wait for new features, she's been very productive. So if you were at Devcon 2019, you know that we were about to have a baby boy, and Taejin was born in 2020 during the pandemic. He's there in the back row there. And then just at the end of last year, we had our baby daughter as well. So they're here at the conference. It'd be lovely for you to say hello. Not quite weekly, but we're working on that. And definitely lots of breaking changes to my life with these guys. Okay, so Marco Leo asked me to talk about the future of DXP, which is great because it's about the future and it's about DXP. So I can basically say anything, and well, maybe it won't matter. But I thought I would start with the question of what is a DXP, right? And apart from the fact that nobody actually really knows what a DXP is, even Gartner and Forrester, who kind of coined the term, it is kind of this nebulous thing. When Liferay back in 2017 decided ourselves to become a DXP, it was kind of a very simple rationale. So before we were DXP, we were a Liferay portal. And when we would talk to people about what we were, it was very hard to really describe the full breadth of what Liferay did. On the one hand, if you talked about portal server or portlet container, people thought about WSRP, and they expected that Liferay would look something like this, right? On the other hand, some people said, oh, Liferay, you know, they're a CMS, you can build websites with it. But we felt like we have a lot more than that. So we were in this weird spot. We didn't want to have to explain a bunch of stuff about why we're more than a portal server. Yes, we do WSRP. Yes, we do security, but we have all this other stuff too. And so considering all the things that we had and looking at where the market was going, where some of the CMS companies were moving toward DXP, even some of the commerce platforms were moving toward DXP, we decided, you know what? Let's get on that train as well. So that's where that decision came from. At the end of the day, when we talk to our customers, when we talk to new prospects, they say, hey, Liferay, we're looking to build a customer portal, and we heard you guys are good for that. We're building a new partner portal or supplier portal. You guys came recommended. And in fact, a lot of people just say, hey, we're looking for a CMS, and we heard that Liferay is a good one. So I think as long as we keep looking at what customers are looking for, we'll be okay. Speaking of customers, last year we broke out all of the different new projects that were launched on Liferay, and this is sort of the share of the different kinds of solutions that are built using our platform. And you can actually see that public website, CMS-driven stuff was a good chunk of that as well. Of course, intranets and portals are there too. Okay, so what is a DXP? I think the most concrete way that I can think of to describe this category is that it's some combination of content management, portal capability, digital assets and documents, and commerce capabilities, but coupled with things that help you understand what your users need and what they're experiencing. So customer data, targeting, journeys and analytics and that sort of a thing. And once we think of it that way, then it becomes quite concrete, right? And as you are staffed on projects or as you are recommending technologies to your customers, you can kind of think of these product categories and keep them in mind. And as you get to know Liferay, or if you already know Liferay really well, you probably have an idea of some of the areas where we are stronger and some of the areas where we are weaker. Okay, so what is the future of DXPs? All of the categories that I just mentioned, they're big categories, right? Take any one of them. Take commerce, for example. You have companies as big as SAP with Hybris, providing a SaaS version of that. You have Commerce Stack, one of the mock upstarts. Even for content management, you have everything from Contentful to, of course, WordPress to some of the other DXP vendors who play in that space. And all of these companies are like a billion, sometimes they're startups, but sometimes they're billion-dollar companies. And so I think people used to say, well, a DXP should have all of these things in the portfolio. You got to go to Adobe because they've got forms and they've got marketing automation and they've got advertising it and all this stuff. And you should be able to buy it all from one vendor. But I actually don't think that really makes sense, right? Because if you've got billion-dollar companies who focus on doing one thing really well, and they're leading that space, then that can't be the same thing as what a DXP is. So I took a stab at defining this as sort of a categorical thing. I think the best DXPs do a great job of bringing users together with the resources of an organization so that those groups working together can drive digital innovation in that organization. In the simple cases, it's going to be things like self-service and digital marketing, but sometimes it's going to be cooler things like employees understanding what customers need and then updating their employee workflows to do that. Okay, now I just said that, but and here's a diagram to sort of illustrate that coming together. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to come back to this that nobody really knows, right? Okay, so what should you expect from Liferay in the area of DXPs? If there's one message that I want you to come away from today, it's this. Our posture has changed, and we want to listen to you, our community members, to developers, to our partners, and to our customers. And if there's one common thread that runs through everything that you've heard in the last couple of days and for the rest of the conference, it's going to be this. We don't want to keep thinking that we have the best answers for what we're doing. We're going to listen to you, we're going to listen to the industry, and then we're going to thoughtfully figure out how to bring those things together in a way that makes your lives easier and makes you more productive. Okay, so I think there are 7 themes that I've broken down personally that really guide the way that we think about the future of Liferay DXP. You heard from the cloud guys this morning, and you heard from Alexis Johnson from Google, and they're basically talking about a lot of the things that they're going to take care of so that you don't have to worry about it. Today I want to talk about how we're going to evolve the core DXP part itself, which is what you guys are mostly here to learn about, to use, and take advantage of. Okay, so first of all, the way that Liferay was in the past, I liken it to the imperial system. If you've ever visited the US, we have this crazy system, which I think came from England, right? And they measured the king's foot, and that was like 12 inches. Makes no sense whatsoever, but somehow we're one of the only countries that uses it. And so coming into Liferay was a little bit like that. You had to learn OSGI. You had to learn our own UI framework that we built in-house. You had to use our new API architectural framework that we invented in-house, right? And if you are a Liferay core devoted follower, you're like, yeah, give me more of that. But if you're like a normal developer, you're like, man, like there's all this stuff that I don't know what to do with, right? So we're going to stop doing that. We've, in fact, already stopped doing that for a number of years. Again, we're listening, we're looking at the industry, we're seeing what other smart people have figured out before us, and then we're adopting those things into Liferay. Second, we realize that as the world just gets more complex, there's more information and more technology out there, the last thing developers need to do is to figure out, oh, so Liferay has a cute name for this thing, but what does it do? Okay, it's like a new front-end experience framework. Like, it's too much to process, right? And so our product leadership has really said, you know what, let's use the terms and categories that people understand. And in fact, with our naming, let's just try to be as straightforward as possible. So if we have forums, it's Liferay Forums. If we have commerce, it's Liferay Commerce, et cetera. So that you have to spend less energy thinking about what does it mean that Liferay has this thing, and then we can quickly move the conversation to, okay, so you guys are doing commerce. Do you have this, this, and that? Because most other commerce providers have that. And then our product delivery leaders can say, well, yes, we have that. No, we don't have that, and we don't have plans for it, or these things are on the roadmap. It's going to really facilitate a common understanding of what Liferay does so that it takes a lot less effort for all of us to figure out where we need to go. I think the other aspect of this is that there are product categories for a reason. Companies with money identify groups of people who have a problem, and they design a product to solve that problem, right? And so I think doing this will also help keep Liferay focused on how is our platform solving the real needs of large groups of people out there. Okay, third, you already know this about Liferay. We've been doing this for a few years now. We want to work well with others. I would argue that this has been in our DNA for the last 20 years. From the very first versions of Liferay, we didn't want to lock you in to any of the specific technology choices we made. So in the early days, we shipped with Lucene. We wanted to give you a search engine that you could use right away. But if you wanted to change that to Elastic or to IBM Search or Solar, you could do that easily. With identity management, you could work with, you could work with Microsoft. You could work with open source vendors. You could work with Cisco. There was always that flexibility. So how are we taking this further? I think in that flexibility, our underlying assumption was still, hey, Liferay's your main thing, and you're just patching in these other things and replacing parts of Liferay. So we're absolutely still going to do that. But on top of that, we're going to say, you know what? Maybe in the future, people want to use Liferay mostly headlessly. They're just not going to use our web publishing, right? I think most people will still, but we want to make sure that as we design Liferay, we don't just assume that you're going to use it all, right? So how can we make more of the parts of Liferay sort of individually useful, even in cases where the majority of the technology lies outside? Okay, number 4. This is definitely more forward-looking, but we want to move to a model where Liferay technology is openly available for you to use, but we only charge you in terms of your, the subscription cost, but also possibly the infrastructure cost, the resource cost of the software to the degree you use it. Have you ever been to one of those rotating sushi conveyor belt places? Okay, so basically it's all there. If you want 10 plates of eel, you can get that. If you're just going to go for the taro, you can do that. But if you don't like taro, you're not going to have to pay for it, right? And then at the end of the day, or at the end of your meal, they look at your plates and the colors and they charge you, right? So that's the kind of model we want. Last year we took the decision to not separate out Liferay DXP, Commerce, and Analytics Cloud. Now it's all included in the subscription for one price, right? So that was step 1 because that's the same as all the sushis on the belt. But now the next step will be, hey, you're only going to pay for Commerce if you use it. You're only going to pay for Forms if you use it, et cetera. Okay, number 5. And this, I think, really is one of the core reasons why you want to have a DXP at all, is how can Liferay become critical and essential, not because we're necessarily driving the front-end experience, which we still want to do, but because we're the best place to go when you need to understand what the user has been through and what they're trying to do next. So a couple examples. With digital marketing, there's a lot of like upselling, advertisements, and things like that. But if in your customer portal, you know that this person has just opened 15 support tickets, and they're searching for terms, and they're going to the forums, and they're posting things like, man, I have no idea how to use this product, et cetera. The last thing you want to do is like try to upsell them on additional products, right? So being smart enough to understand the context of the user, being able to connect all of the resources and assets so that they're available, but then making an intelligent choice about what you actually engage with. And I think a lot of this is where we're going to see more of the application of AI and ML, where, again, we're not going to try to reinvent our own AI ML, but apply what's out there on the market to solve some of these core problems. Okay, number 6, non-Liferay experiences. So this is a bit of a, it's sort of the other side of the coin for point 4 and 3, but we want to really be thoughtful about how Liferay makes sense when you're not using our native presentation layers. A lot of people love developing on React. Some people are dipping their toes into the metaverse. There's been a lot about chatbots and chat interfaces. We really need to think about how Liferay is going to interact with those non-Liferay experiences. Of course, it starts with strong APIs. And I hope you've seen from this conference and the work of Liferay previously that we have really taken APIs seriously. In fact, one of the ways that we've reinforced the strength of our APIs is that our own product delivery teams building our native interfaces for administration and web experiences, they are required to use our APIs. And so it's no longer this thing where it's just sort of automatically generated as an afterthought. We're really taking this seriously. So it starts there, but I think the next step would be, how do we connect the dots? If you have a user that's engaging you through a React application, maybe makes an in-store visit, and then gets on the phone with a customer service rep, how do you actually connect the dots of that experience together and orchestrate it? I really think that that's going to be the role of a Liferay or a DXP, and we need to do a better job of that. Okay, and then finally, just bringing it full circle from what you heard this morning, we really want to continue to push the envelope of how Liferay is designed to be completely cloud native. And that doesn't just mean taking the box of Liferay stuff that you used to run on-prem or on a private server and then dropping it on our cloud. It's actually saying, hey, how can we actually design Liferay where maybe some of the resource-intensive calculations are offloaded onto a separate container and scaled apart from your Liferay. It could be other things like how we are integrating some of the security precautions that Jolt and his team are leading as well. But we really want to double down on being a cloud-native platform. And we believe that that will also then have trickle-down benefits to our non-Liferay cloud or even on-premise users as well. Okay, so just to bring it all together, I thought I would close by giving you an example or a vision of what a Liferay-related project might look like in the future if we abide by some of these principles. So let's say you want to build a React app. You want to get something done really quickly. You know that it's going to have to have some atomic content. You don't want the content to be tied to the presentation layer because that's going to be determined by your React app. You know that Contentful is out there. There are other sort of mock or headless options, but one thing you know about Liferay is that we have a robust roles and permissions framework. We've got some workflow. You know that we've got some integrations with e-signature providers and so forth. So Let's say you've got your React app. You get access to Liferay on our SaaS. You're able to purchase a subscription, right? You only need the parts that we just talked about: personalization, atomic content, group roles and permissions, maybe some workflow. So the other stuff is there in the background, but you don't have to use it. You're primarily interacting with Liferay stuff through APIs, so your content authors may still use our native authoring interfaces because that makes sense. But in terms of where the content is presented to the user and where users interact, that's in your React app. You needed that DocuSign integration, and so you go over to the marketplace, you find 3 or 4 different options. You find one that you like from a partner that you trust with a good pricing model, and you add that as well. And it's as easy as just dropping it into your Liferay Experience Cloud environment. Now, on top of that, one of the reasons you choose Liferay is because you've got some custom code to go in there as well. And our extensions architecture supports that really nicely, and that's easy to put in there. In terms of pricing and payment, it's correlated to the amount you use. So you're using us for personalization a little bit, but it's not that sophisticated. You're using us for roles and permissions, maybe a little bit more than that. But really, the core use of Liferay in this use case is for content, and so that's where you're paying the most. But over time, as that changes, you may pay more or less for these parts as well. And then finally, because it's SaaS and because the technology is all there, as your React app evolves, as you add more capabilities, as you solve more problems, you may decide, you know what? I do want to use some of Liferay's commerce features. I didn't realize how good it was. I was able to access it and play around because it was just there, available to me. And now I'm actually finding it super useful, and I'm, again, going to pay for usage of that. So, in summary, I don't think that this fully and perfectly captures all of the aspects that we're talking about. But as we look forward to software as a service, as we think about how to make Liferay more and more relevant to the direction of the industry and what our customers are asking for, and as we think through the possibilities that are being opened up by some of the investments that we've made, we think that we're going to be able to do something like this. The part that I love most about this is that for years, I would come to Devcon, I would meet some folks, let's say from a small university in Italy, and they would say, we love Liferay. Your subscription's a little bit too expensive for us, so we're using Community Edition, but we try to contribute back in these ways, but thanks for making Liferay. I think this model is going to open up more possibilities for them to take advantage of the investments we're making in cloud and the rest of Liferay technology, as well as get the enterprise class support and things that we provide. The second cool thing I think about this is that if you remember Bryan Chan's talk from like 4 years ago, he said, we want you guys to be like the 1% or the 10%. I think it was like, you guys are the 1%, the 10% is going to be the front end, and then the 90% is going to be like business users. I think this is more steps in that direction where even for the people who just find a little bit of value of Liferay, they're going to find ways to take advantage of that as well. So that's our vision. I hope you guys see it as well, and I'm excited to go there with you guys. Thanks so much.